webinar, How to Unwind Your Monkey Mind and How to Get Yourself Realigned. I'm so happy to see so many of you here joining us. Before I start, I'd like to ask that we do a quick breath meditation. This is a way to get us centered, aligned, and ready to roll. So find yourself comfortable in your seat, feet on the floor, if that's where you are. And I want to invite you to take a slow breath in, hold it, and then slowly release. Again, breathe in and hold, and then slowly release. Do this 2 or 3 times. Great, nice. And come on back. I like to use a simple breath meditation for my classes just to get us sort of aligned, centered, grounded, and ready to begin. Okay, so before I start, I'd like to ask you a question, and you can type your answer in the comments box. So in a minute, I'm going to share some examples of what we might call our chattering inner dialogues. If you can relate to any of these, just give a I agree in the chat box. So what's wrong with me? I never seem to get ahead. My life stinks. What am I going to do with my life? You might find yourself saying, I will stay at this job even though I hate it because at least I have a job. My boss doesn't value or appreciate me. If I speak up, it'll cause an upset and we will get in an argument, and who knows what terrible things it may cause. And finally, I'm terrified to try something new because I might fail. I'm worried and I'm scared. So these sentences are all examples of your mind chatter. What makes them so difficult is because we believe ultimately that they shape our lives. And these belief patterns sort of cloud our perception. So wouldn't it be great to ease these fears of not being good enough? So I get the feeling, I know how this feels. I'm very acquainted with my inner voices, my inner dialogue, my inner monkey chatter. So let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Brown. I'm a BG5 teacher and consultant, also a human design analyst and teacher. And my journey in human design / BG5 began 17 years ago. Crazy to think. I can say for certain that human design has really shifted for the better how I look, perceive, and operate in life. Currently, I'm living in Boston, which, if you don't know, is in the northeast part of the United States. I have my own coaching business, careerdesign.co. I teach the foundation course in the BG5 Institute, and I also coordinate and provide coaching sessions for small business owners. So over the past 20 years, I've worked with individuals and groups of a lot of different varieties, from young kids to Fortune 500 companies. So I have a depth and breadth of experience and team dynamic on uncovering and overcoming shadow patterns. Even though I won't share it today, if you saw my design, you would see a lot of openness. So Caitlin agrees, yes, she's been there. She knows what it's like to have these shadow patterns, these voices. Totally agree. So this webinar and its wacky name is a topic that is very special to me. The reason is because when you learn to tame and overcome the monkey mind shadow patterns, what's on the other side is peace and your authentic self. So taking this journey and being able to identify and notice these monkey patterns has huge benefits for you in your life and your career. Keep in mind that this is not a one and done process. You have to do this over and over and over. Think of it in terms of peeling back layers of an onion. And what's at the center of this onion is your true self. So we ready to dive in? Good, here we go. So a little bit of a perspective about where we are now. So many of us are feeling really unfulfilled in our day-to-day work, our job, our career and business. So you may be working at a job just to make money, wishing you could do what you love. You may be doing what you love, but struggling to pay the bills. You may be making enough money, but feeling unsatisfied in your work, or knowing deep down that something important is missing. There was a Gallup poll in 2017 that showed up to 85% of worldwide employees hate their job, or at least disengaged or unsatisfied in some way. When you think of it, that's more than 8 out of 10 people. Truly stunning amount. So if you look around and listen, you can hear the dissatisfaction and the struggle around us. Here in the US, stress and burnout is very common in the workforce. Man, I see it all around. Living in and around a city like Boston, you get to feel the freneticness, the energy, and it's not so good. People are stressed, and you can feel it. You can see it in the way they drive, how they operate, how they are out and about in the world. I think personally, human design, BG5 is such a good way to sort of come back to ourselves. So let's do an experiment. What would it feel like to truly be yourself, maybe for the first time? So we're going to look at one of the most important aspects of your design, what we humorously call your monkey mind, as the place where you get off track and how to get back on track. So that's part of what this webinar is going to be all about. So monkey mind is a fun way of describing how your shadow patterns work. In kind of a humorous way, monkeys like to chatter. And that's also how your shadow patterns work as well. You'll notice that these patterns are really simply the inner dialogue in our mind that goes on incessantly, day after day after day. So what is the monkey mind? Way back when, 2,500 years ago, Buddha described the human mind as being filled with drunken monkeys, jumping around, screeching, chattering, carrying on endlessly. So if you've ever had a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we all have monkey minds with dozens of voices clamoring for attention. Our monkeys have voices of fear, anxiety, worry, negative self-talk that can really get in our way and prevent us from being our true self. Fear, I know you know this one, is an especially loud monkey, pointing out all the things we should be afraid of and everything that could go wrong. It hampers our ability to concentrate, holds us back. It can be very stressful to have this inner dialogue going on in our heads all day long. So BG5 can tell us where our monkeys originate. We can clearly identify their homes by looking at our own. Is great at observing, learning, and taking information. Is here to process and conceptualize and share your ideas with others. Your thoughts can uplift, inspire, and empower others. However, it's not here to resolve doubts, questions about your own life. The monkey mind is something that can drive you crazy, throw you off track with ideas of what it thinks you should be doing. Operates out of fear for survival, and likes to make up stories and tell you lies. So just for clarification here, between the mind and the monkey mind, the mind is, and we're going to go into this a little bit more deeper, the mind is, it's neither positive or negative. It's this ability to observe, to watch, but the monkey mind is the part of your mind that likes to jump in, likes to figure things out, and also move you off track. So where do we find this in BG5? It's part of the success codes. In fact, it's the 10th success code. So here's what BG5 does for you. It gives you the maps, the training, and the support to overcome your obstacles and become your true self. Now, in this work, we don't tell you what to do. What we do is give you a personal map, teach you how to read it, and encourage you to experiment in your own life and see how it really works. So there are two types of maps that we use. We use the traditional human design body graph map, as well as the BG5 career design map in reports. So today we're going to specifically look at success code 10, which is your shadows and distractions. This is your home base of your monkey mind. I always find that term kind of funny. So stay with us and we'll gift you with a BG5 career design success code map with your personal codes that unlock your hidden potential. So that's part of being here in this training. You'll get this for free. Oh, excuse me for a sec. So we are here to share our true gifts with the world. So all that is defined in your body graph is your true potential. And what's defined is what's colored in. Each one of us has our own unique purpose in the world, and no one has the same way of fulfilling that purpose. Each person's chart is different and unique to us. One of the main aspects of your design are the 9 functions, which are the 9 colored box and triangles. These defined functions and the lines connecting them are our consistent, reliable strengths. Our functions also make up our type and determine what specific part of our body awareness informs our correct decision-making. We talked about this last week in our Builder seminar. I'll get to that when we share about how you can get yourself realigned. But here are your main strengths, energy that you can rely on 24/7 if you have them colored in. So each of these 9 different functions has a specific purpose, and we'll go into that too. So now I told you, BG5 shows us where our monkeys are brought to life and how they can be nurtured. In BG5, we clearly identify their homes by looking at our shadows and distractions. The shadows and distractions are the functions that are undefined in our design. All the open functions or the white functions. So when you see one of these functions, one of these triangles or squares white, that means it's open. And what it also means is you have the potential for your shadows or your monkeys to begin acting up. When your willpower is undefined, there can be feelings of worthlessness, not good enough, overcompensating, and trying to prove yourself. When your emotional intelligence is undefined, you may find yourself avoiding confrontation and truth. You fear rocking the boat or making waves. You can feel touchy, nervous, defensive, and you most definitely take on other people's emotions and make them your own. When your identity and direction is undefined, you're always looking for who you are and what to do in your life, which can create some role confusion. Your undefined survival instincts, you act out of fear. You're unable to let go of things, which can make you inflexible. Inspiration, and that is undefined, that function is undefined. All the ideas around you can sort of create doubts, confusion, trying to answer other people's questions, and losing focus. With the conceptualization function undefined, you pretend that you're certain and become mentally defensive. When the energy resource is undefined, it's about not knowing when enough's enough, not knowing when to stop, becoming overzealous. When the undefined drive and stamina, you can be always in a hurry to get things done, just to get it off your plate. And undefined communication and action, you're the one doing all the talking, trying to be the star, trying to gain attention. So these 9 different functions, these are what we call the keynotes. And the power of the keynotes is they're easy to remember. I find myself, because I have 7 of these functions open, I just use the keynotes all the time. So, if I'm preparing for a webinar and I'm writing, and all of a sudden I find myself on YouTube watching a video, I know that I've lost focus. Or I'm on the computer and I notice that I have 8 tabs open and I'm scrolling back and forth, or I'm checking email. Those simple keynotes, like, I'm losing focus right now. Close out everything, come back to what I need to be doing. So that's the power of being able to harness and understand why these keynotes are so important, because it's easy to pull yourself back on track. So how do we unwind the monkey mind? So here are some things we can do. So there's an antidote to the previous shadows. In addition to noticing, like I just talked about, you can let it go by first becoming aware of these different shadow patterns, and then taking steps to change the way you think and do things. So here's some strategies specifically geared towards each of these specific functions. With the ego, the willpower, just realizing, knowing I don't have to prove anything. With the open emotional intelligence, it's about speaking up for yourself, speaking your truth. What happens is you can become someone who's afraid to speak up for yourself, to speak your truth, because you're afraid of rocking the boat. Ultimately, what you're afraid of with this open function is you're afraid of the emotional backlash that will come at you when you speak your truth. With the identity function, have faith that your path will show itself. It can be very difficult to have an identity direction open function, because there'll be times when you don't know where you're going, where you don't have some specific role in life. And that's when the mind shadow begins. I need to get on track. I need to get my life in order. Those are the shadows that show up most deeply with this one. And having trust and faith that it's going to sort of come in its own time. Open survival, letting go of what no longer serves you. Ultimately, at the core of this fear, this shadow function, is wanting to feel more secure, safe. And so what we tend to do is we hold on to things too long. Mental shadow patterns and the antidotes, making lists to focus, admitting you don't know something. So if you have an open conceptualization function, it is incredibly relieving to know that I don't need to know everything. And just saying, I don't know, can be such a freeing, liberating feeling. With your open energy function, energy resource function, listening to your body, knowing when enough's enough. Even if you're a really strong builder, an express builder, a classic builder, it doesn't matter. Knowing when to stop can be a good thing. And if you have it open, it's doubly important for you to do. And the open drive and stamina is to slow down. Don't give in to that pressure. And last but not least, with that open throat, that open communication, is to talk less, listen more. If you we've all been in experiences where social situations or work meetings when someone is incessantly doing the talking, you can just know, you have this sense that they must have an open throat. And the reason is, the dynamic is, if you have an open throat communication function, what you really need to get in contact with is this experience of your throat under pressure. The pressure is to say something. And I've talked to people with an open throat, with an open communication function, and they talk about that pressure, that need to talk. That's partly what it's about. And so what you'll notice, if you have this open throat function, if you're not the one doing the talking, at some point in the conversation, the attention is going to be drawn back to you, and someone will pull you out. So we know that our monkey mind gets us off track by telling us stories and telling us lies out of fear. So in referring to what we should do, as opposed to what we're taught or what we think others will want from us. But if you really want to live as your true self, if you want to be happy, satisfied, successful, finding peace and delight, then it's your body that can tell you exactly the way forward and get you realigned with yourself. There are some practices that can help you in realigning yourself. The first is the ability to notice them in the course of your daily life. The second and most powerful practice in human design in BG5 is to make decisions from your body awareness. Listening to your body awareness is how you get yourself realigned and get yourself on track. First, we're going to start with noticing. I only discovered this practice later in my human design awareness experiments. I was probably 6 or 7 years into my work, my studies. I was, I might have been an analyst by that point. And when I really began to understand how simply and powerfully this idea of noticing is, it really began to shift my awareness. I really wish someone had taught me this earlier. So that's why I'm bringing this up in this webinar. As you're going to see, it's a very natural thing that we all do. So for now, we're going to specifically focus on our design shadow patterns. So just for a moment, just relax your eyes and don't read along. Let me read it for you so you can just take in my words. This is actually an exercise, so I want you to follow along in your mind with me, not so much reading. So let's begin. Imagine yourself as an actor on a stage, and you're surrounded by people, and everyone, including yourself, is just busy with their life. Now, you as the actor, you're fully immersed in your role. You're being, you're doing, you're out in the world, you're driving, you're working, you go into the store, and you're just in that role. Now imagine for a moment your attention splits off and begins watching yourself from the audience. From this place, you simply notice the experiences you're having as the witness and not the actor. Now, while this may sound complex, it's simply a choice to notice. And there's 2 simple questions you can ask that instantaneously put you in what we call the observer role. The questions are, what am I thinking right now? And what am I feeling? As soon as you ask one of those two questions, you've moved into that role of observer. And you're in a different place in your mind. So let me define what these two modes are. When you're in the active mode, you're living your life totally identified with your experience. You experience your thoughts and feelings, and this is the key part, as if they are you. When you're mad, sad, or scared, that's your full experience. From there, what happens is your mind begins to craft a story about who you are. You may find yourself saying, there's something wrong with me for feeling this way. That's the active mode. You totally identify with your experience, and unconsciously you begin to craft beliefs and stories. There's something wrong with me for feeling this way. When you shift into the observer mode, what happens is you step back from your inner experience and simply watch what you're thinking and feeling. So this is the ability to observe your thoughts and emotional sensations in your body without identifying with them. This is a different place in your mind where you have the ability to watch your inner experience with compassion and acceptance. I feel sad, and that's okay. So you're watching your experience from a place of non-judgmental awareness. It's a completely different way of going through life. So again, this is an exercise. So just relax, take a moment to breathe. You notice the breath going in and out. Now simply notice your thoughts. Ask yourself the question, what am I thinking right now? Next, I want you to place your awareness in your body. Notice your body and how you're feeling. What am I feeling right now? Am I mad, sad, happy, scared, stressed? This is simple, right? These two questions are your simple prompts. So this is a visual map of this process in action. The significance of the process is when you're mindfully observing your thoughts and feelings, your mind or your ego or your not self is not the one assigning meaning to them. This can be incredibly powerful. Your mind usually operates from a place of fear, while the observer self gives you the option to look at your experiences from a higher, more authentic perspective. So which would you rather have shaping your perception of life? Your fearful not self or your more loving, authentic self? When we think about it in that light, it's not really a choice. Now you can do this at any moment of the day. I'll just share a quick example. So for the past 5 years, I've been doing this practice pretty religiously. So in the course of any one particular day, I may do this noticing process 100 times. What I began to notice in doing that is my shadow patterns are not as powerful as they used to be. I no longer run on autopilot. So this idea of noticing interrupts the ego, the not self, the monkey mind from interpreting your experience. So how can you do this? How can you bring this into your life on a regular basis? And the question is, can you take a few moments each day to witness your thoughts, your beliefs? So here's a practice you can do. You can set a timer. You can just, the top of the hour when you're finding yourself sort of buzzy, is just take a few moments each day to sort of notice those thoughts, those feelings, belief. The second is noticing your thoughts and feelings while you're doing things. So you can do this in the midst of your everyday life. So in doing this, you may begin to notice that your thoughts and feelings affect your perceptions of people and the situations around you. So what you're doing is building up an inner awareness practice. So why do this? The practice of noticing brings everything to conscious awareness. When that happens, your self-awareness deepens. Essentially, you're building a muscle that allows you to perceive things around you on multiple levels. So body, mind, and spirit begin to become more aligned. So one of our webinar participants was kind enough to share her chart to use as an example. So let's put this into action now. So here's our classic builder. Let's give a quick overview of her chart. We'll practice with some simple keynoting. So the red box colored in and down and below there is the energy function. And this is what makes her a builder. What makes her a classic builder is that there's no direct connection to the communication, the throat function. So she works best when she allows things to come to her, which allows her to respond before she engages and jumps into action. What guides all her decisions is her inner gut response. She assimilates information quickly because her two defined functions are connected to one another. There's nothing split off from the other. So how to apply this to a chart here? I talked about this in the builder webinar, what I call BG5 eyes. So this is the ability to look at a chart and begin to sense who this person is and what they may be struggling with. Since we're talking about shadow patterns and how they affect the mind operates, when you look at this chart, what stands out when you look at it? What obviously shows up for me is the 7 open functions. So when you see a chart that has 9, yes, only 2 functions defined, which means 7 are open. That's a lot of openness, which means she's very sensitive to the world around her. That sensitivity has 2 very different ways of interpreting the world. The first is she is someone who has a deep sensitivity to the various frequencies around her. And the second is to personalize these frequencies and take them on as her own and act from that place. Caitlin, you're agreeing with this. The second way is what we call our shadow patterns. What's so bad about this is the mind creates stories and makes them true. This is what we call operating on autopilot. Ugh, it's tough. Okay, so this is the core of your design. So the colored parts represent your core life force. So I'm going to keynote this design in one sentence. And when I say that, it's a highlight. We could talk for 10, 15 minutes just about this blue box. But in one sentence, here's what I would say. Being clear about what you say yes to will unlock the power to follow your convictions that will lead you in the perfect direction, where you can focus your energy in ways that feel very satisfying for you. Now, when you see those little parentheses with a number, those numbers are the traits and strength highlighted in that blue box. So what I've done is really simply is just keynote that. And there's a lot I can say about this, but I just wanted you to understand this is her in her best form. The white parts can pull you off track. When you're in your shadow mode, you can be a peep. So I'm now going to keynote the shadows. When you're in your shadow mode, you can be a people pleaser who's afraid to charge what she's worth, anxious, holding on to old identity belief patterns, where you're afraid to express your ideas and opinions with others. That can be a gut-wrenching statement. So fortunately, learning how to overcome these patterns can help you immensely. So this is where we apply. Yes.
We just had a question. If you could go back and repeat what you said about that chart at the end.
All right, let me just run through the side.
Yeah, I think just about her open areas, her open functions.
Okay, so here's the keynote again. So when you're in your shadow mode, you can be a people pleaser. Now, these are the shadow keynotes. You can be a people pleaser who's afraid to charge her worth, anxious, holding on to old identity belief patterns, where you're afraid to express your ideas and opinions with others. So let me tell you what I just did there. I've just taken the keynotes of the shadow patterns, and we've woven a story about how her mind can interpret these shadow patterns. Does that make sense?
Yes, it looks like she got clarity.
Good. Good. Thank you for the question. It's important. So this is where we apply the notice and practice to your daily BG5 practice. It's also a great tool to begin your deconditioning process, where you move from authentic self to true self. So the key is to keep things simple by turning your shadow patterns into keywords that you instantly recognize. So that's what I was doing before. So as you put this into practice, you'll be amazed at how good you get at noticing these patterns. So here's my pro tip. Don't take your shadow patterns personally and get upset. A way to do this is like, oh man, I'm doing that thing again. Oh man, I'm losing focus. Oh, I'm overworking. I'm being a people pleaser. All of those things can really get you down. The idea is that you don't want to take them personally, because essentially these patterns are universal. Everyone has them. They're sort of expressing them all the time. So remember, just keep noticing them. So you'll recognize these patterns from the previous slides I showed you. So let's take a quick look. So you're going to ask yourself the question, am I losing focus? Am I overcomplicating things? Am I second guessing? So this is essentially what the noticing practice is. So you're going to ask yourself and notice, am I losing focus, overcomplicating? Am I in the communication function? Am I the one doing all the talking here? Ultimately, am I just trying to seek attention? Am I afraid of letting go of my beliefs, my possessions, my relationships? Am I holding on to things too long? This is what you're essentially noticing in the course of your life. Am I rushing around, pushing? Am I people pleasing, taking on other people's emotions? I'm worried about what other people will think of me. So you'll recognize these from a previous slide, just to kind of put them up there and try to show you how you would begin noticing them. These are the keynotes to do that. So let's apply this to the real world. We're going to use this as a mini case study. So let's say that we, as a business coach, have a client who's a freelance graphic designer. So, Kaylin, this is your design. You're going to be our graphic designer in your freelance business. Now, you got hired to do a website redesign project for a client who runs her own marketing agency. So I'm going to play the role as BG5 coach. Kaylin, you're my client, and you have this as your client. So me as the coach, I'm going to tell our graphic design client here how she can work with her client a little bit better. So when we look at these two designs, what do we see? So right away, we see that they're both builders, but different kind of builders. On the left, we have our classic builder. On the right, we have an express builder. And each of these builders have very different decision-making styles. They process at different speeds and they communicate differently. So as her BG5 coach, I'm going to communicate this to her simply and clearly in ways that she can apply to her client conversations. Does that make sense? So again, what I'm doing is, imagine a triangle. Up top, I'm the BG5 coach, and I'm working with Caitlin over here, the graphic designer on the left, who has a client. What I'm going to be doing is coaching her to work with her clients more effectively in knowing her design. So I would have asked the graphic designer here, can you get your client's birth information? So this is how she could frame it. Hey, I'm working with this business coach, and he suggested I develop a unique approach to working with my clients where I can tailor my onboarding process to match my client's work style. That's you. So to do that, I ask for my client's birth data. This allows me to use the BG5 system to create a personalized operating style for each of my clients. This information allows me to create a personalized human design map, which helps me work with you in a cohesive way. Would you be open to doing that? Her client says, yeah, sure. So in your next session, so what I'm doing is I'm creating a scenario here. So in your next session with your graphic design client, I'm going to teach my graphic designer how she could apply this knowledge to working with her client better. So what I need to know is, are you working with your client in person or remotely? So let's say that our graphic designer says, yes, we're doing weekly meetings and I'm actually going to be working with them. So this is what the graphic designer would need to know about working with her clients. So your client has a powerful emotional system that has the potential to amp you up. The idea is you don't want to react to her emotions or get thrown off by them. So what you do is you allow your body to process her emotions, but you don't personalize them. So what are we doing here? So our graphic designer has a totally open emotional system. It is very sensitive to other people's emotions. So what we're trying to do is help her understand this is one of the things that you can do to work with your client better. So we're starting to see that our information can be very precise. Also, I would want to let her know that both you and your client have very different operating styles. You have different decision-making styles. You process differently, and you communicate differently. So this idea of this example, this mini case study, this is my desire to help you understand how BG5 can help you in your work with clients. And this is all things that you'll be learning in your studies. Any questions about this at all? Oh, excuse me. Any questions here? No, great. So for you, Caitlin, what we would say is these are your antidotes. You'll recognize these. These are information that we talked about in previous slides. But this is a simple list of action steps you can take specifically for your design here. Nice. Okay, so about 60% of successfully dealing with shadow patterns is being able to notice them. The rest is to follow the success codes of your design to overcome your deeper aspects of your patterns. To be truthful, I made this number up about 60%, but it's because I've been spending years and years and years noticing that as soon as you can begin to identify your shadow patterns, things begin to relax in your mind. So it can be very powerful just to spend time noticing these shadow patterns in action. The second part of this is understanding the success codes and how powerful they can be. So the first success code is the career type. So there's 4 foundational career types, and it basically tells you how you best operate in your career. So we got innovators who are designed to use their energy and to get things started. Their true gift is impact. They're about 8% of the population. Builders, 70% of the population, give or take, are designed to provide the energy to move it along. Their true gift to the world is their energy. Advisors, at about 21% of the population, are designed to lead and guide the process. Their true gift to the world is recognition, as they recognize talent and the gifts of others. And then finally, the rarest of types is evaluators. So statistically speaking, they're about 1 in 100. Very truly extraordinary type in many ways, because they're so rare. They're designed to tell us how well things are going on or not. So when an evaluator is in a group or a team, they have the ability to sense and feel what's happening, where things are off and where things are working. The second success code is the personal interaction style. It can be very powerful because each one of these types has a unique way of interacting. And essentially, it's how you best communicate with others. So innovators inform. They don't, builders ask yes and no questions. Advisors, it's good to be recognized and invited. And evaluators listen to their own unique wisdom. The final success code that helps you with your monkey mind is decision-making style. And essentially, it is what it sounds like, how you best make decisions according to your design. So there's 11 different styles of decision-making. that all vary according to your design. So you can learn more about that through your report, a career design session, or enrolling in a foundation class, which begins this Wednesday. So laughing, not taking your monkey mind so seriously can be very powerful. So what we've done in this webinar is give you a look to help you understand where these originate and how you can overcome them. So for joining us today, a little bit of a gift. So we have the BG5 success code map for $1. What a great deal. So this is a personalized one-page report listing all 16 success codes elements, I have trouble saying that, of your unique design. So bg5businessinstitute.com/career/reports, or -reports. The coupon code is monkey. And again, you can see this is over on the right, you can see all of the different specific ones that you have. We just covered one today. So there's 15 other codes that we'll be learning about in the next 2 semesters of the foundation class. So we have a special package for you. This package is the foundation package. It includes the foundation classes 1 and 2, an overview session with me, a webinar about emotional intelligence, and having a complete report. So all of this will be roughly about $500 savings. So you can see this, and the link is at the bottom. So an amazing deal. And we do also have pricing plan options available too. So if you're coming over from the IHDS and you've been studying human design and you've taken some of the core classes over there, we also have an audit price for you as well. So really great. I'll be teaching the next foundation class, starts this Wednesday. It starts at, I think it's 1600 GMT time, UTC time. You can confirm that for me, Sarah. So here's the link to sign up. I hope to see you there. And let me check in. Yes, 1600 UTCs for our class. Any final questions? You can type them into the box. No, great. Everyone, thank you for joining me and Sarah. We appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at email turningleafwellness@mac.com is my personal email. My school email is michael@bg5institute.com. Thank you, everyone. So happy to have you here. Take care and bye for now.